What is up, everybody? Welcome to another live episode of Catching Up with Cody podcast. I'm your host, as always, Cody. We got another guest coming on the show, Kevin from the Lions Grid. You guys have probably seen him a couple weeks back. I did have him on the podcast. And now he's back for the live episode. So, Kevin, thank you for coming on. And how's it been since the last time we kind of talked?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Cody. Glad to be here. And, I think we were, the last time we talked, we were sort of full of optimism about where these Detroit Pistons may be able to go in the postseason. And of course, now we know what the answer is about how far they can go. And makes for a sobering Monday, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and we were kind of talking off air before we got on. I'm getting sick. The Pistons lost. It's Monday. So that's the trifecta right there. So, I guess if that's how the week's going to start, hopefully the end of the week will be a little bit better.
Yeah, only way you can go is up from here at the moment, which is, a blessing and a curse.
Yes, for sure. Well, I guess let's start off with, the big story of the weekend. The Detroit Pistons losing Game 7 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't even think the team showed up. They lost by 30 points almost, plus points almost. There's not one thing, I saw the press conference after and, all the players are like, it just wasn't our game. And we did good this season, this and that. Yeah, I don't know if they forgot that they had a game to play or what, but at home, and I've been saying this throughout this series and last series, home court advantage does not mean anything for the Detroit Pistons, and that definitely showed last night. I don't know how much of the game you really watched. I know a lot of people probably turned it off by halftime, but what's kind of the things that stood out to you, and where do you think this Detroit Pistons team needs to go?
Yeah, I made it into the second half, so they were down by 17 at halftime because they hit that three right before. Otherwise, they would have been down by 20. Made it into the second half, thinking, okay, time for the Pistons to go on a run. Time for them to come out here and they're definitely known as being a high effort team and a team with a lot of grit. So was expecting to see some sort of fight out of them in the second half, and there was no fight to be had. I know there was a commercial that had been showing in some markets that had already the Cavaliers and the Knicks going, advertising the Eastern Conference Finals. And it really felt like that was the case based off of what we saw yesterday. They definitely seemed like they were just overmatched. This was the second 7-game series that the Pistons were in. I don't know if it was fatigue. I don't know if it was just the moment was too big for them, but they had been doing really well in these elimination games up to this point in the playoffs, but never could really find anything positive to build on here in Game 7. So definitely disappointing. Obviously you're going to be disappointed when you come out on the losing end of these games anyways, but I think the fact that they didn't really put up any meaningful fight at all, very upsetting, at least from me. And again, I'm not a huge basketball fan. I'm definitely more on the casual side there. But as someone who, was optimistic about the Pistons' chances just because of where the season was at. I know watching you in the sports or the Real Sports podcast, I know that you guys, I think your picks were the Pistons and you had the Thunder, I think was your projection. So certainly thought there was a chance they could get there, but last night's game definitely showed they were overmatched.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it honestly, like, I know a lot of people have been talking about a disappointing season, and I'm going to have to agree. You get 60 wins. I get it. It's a big jump, obviously, from 2 years ago. But, 60 wins, number one seed. The whole playoffs, we looked absolutely atrocious. And we'll talk about it here with Jalen Duren, with that max contract that obviously is going to be a big talk in the offseason. I've spoken about it a couple times, and I don't think he should get it. I honestly think we should let him walk. He's going to get the contract, whether it's with Detroit or with, a smaller team. Don't think any contending teams are going to give him any money. But yeah, this guy was an all-star. He looked like he was going to be almost a playoff MVP type player, and he just forgot, I guess, how to play
Yeah.
basketball coming into the postseason. So, that doesn't help when that's Cade's number two guy on the court and he's not showing up. Tobias being inconsistent, and I think that's what Detroit needs to look for is a number two guy going into this offseason to try to help Cade. He did have
Absolutely.
Cade
Yeah.
obviously had a couple, bad turnovers, couple bad plays, but I mean the guy's exhausted. He's getting double teamed since game one of the first series. And I mean, it's pretty much 5-on-1 basketball for 8 games or 14 games that this guy played. So, you know, I there's not much more Cade can do, and I'm kind of upset with the people that are saying that Cade needs to do a little bit more. I mean, he averaged like 35 points in the playoffs. So I don't know what else people are expecting him to do, especially like I said, he doesn't have that second superstar or that other player that he can go to kind of lean on when he's exhausted and when, he needs to kind of take a rest and somebody needs to stand up.
Yeah, I think if there is a silver lining in this, it is, you had mentioned the question of what do these, what do the Pistons need to do in the offseason? I think they need to take a serious look at the roster. And I think the only really good thing is that this sort of shows that they need to do that. I think maybe if they had gotten through against the Cavaliers, like they would have just ran it back next season. They've been like, see, we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like this team's good enough as is. I think this loss kind of does expose them a little bit that this roster, while they're definitely a bunch of motivated guys, like there just needs to be more talent on the roster. There needs to be that Robin to Cade's Batman. He needs some substantial help. So hopefully we'll see that be addressed in the offseason. And then, yeah, to your point on Jalen Duren, I definitely think Detroit kind of, I believe, has the leverage in terms of what's happening because he is a restricted free agent. I definitely would not be offering him a max contract. So if another team wants to do that and he ends up walking because of that, is what it is. But I definitely think giving him the max would be a reach. And Tobias Harris, he was doing a really good job helping carry the team there until these last 3 games. And then he was really struggling to find his shot. So again, I don't know if that was fatigue playing a factor in it. But he was giving us 20 points a night. I think by the time of the end of the series, he was averaging 11 points. I know like through the first half, he was like 0 for 5 and just had a couple of free throws that he made. It was really struggling to find his shot. So yeah, Cade needs help. I think Cade definitely showed that he can be that guy. It was great to see them get some wins and show that they, get that playoff experience. But I think definitely shows that this roster needs help and Cade needs help. So we'll have to see what they can do in the offseason. And then Cody, a question for you. Do you think that if Wagner hadn't gotten hurt in the Magic series, do you think that would have been the end if Wagner hadn't gone down with that injury?
I'm glad you said that because I have been bringing that up. Yes, if he was playing and he was healthy, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about the Pistons being eliminated in the second round. They would have got eliminated first round by the Orlando Magic. And it really showed. I mean, the games that he was playing, we lost. The games that he wasn't playing, we won. So obviously, that kind of shows that was kind of Detroit's kryptonite. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like, and that's a prime example with that guy being hurt, with Wagner being hurt. It's like, dude, you guys got to, obviously we're taking advantage of that, but you guys got to take advantage while he's playing because, a full healthy team in the playoffs is obviously totally different than a full regular season team. I mean, the playoffs are just totally different. So, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. They need to sit down and look at it. And a lot of it too, like with JB Bickerstaff, like, is this a reason why the Cleveland Cavaliers got rid of him? I mean, I know it was a shock when the news came, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, he coached us to 60 wins, but dude, you got bounced in the second round as a number 1 team. So we kind of got to look at that too. I mean, maybe give JB one more year and then, if you get bounced again, hey, I know you turned the franchise around, but we can't just be making playoffs. I mean, we said that about the Lions. You can only make the playoffs so many years before it's, okay, what's the next step here?
Yeah, I guess it really comes down to the mentality of, the front office. Is it really championship or bust, or are they okay just being in the hunt? And I guess we'll see how that sort of plays out for not only the Pistons, but for our other Detroit teams as well that are kind of in that championship window. Um, are they willing to do what's necessary to bring home the championship, or are they just happy being in the conversation? It'll be interesting to see, you know, which how each one of the GMs sort of handles that moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of moving on, still in the basketball realm, but the Western Conference side, which is going to be this is going to be a battle. I mean, I'm thinking it's going to go probably 6 games with San Antonio winning it. But I'm definitely excited to see this series. I mean, it it's going to be crazy. I mean, we got Wemby on the one side, and we got the MVP and Shea on the other side. I mean, this is a battle. This is what the NBA wants. This is good basketball right here. Two young teams that are going to be, in the league for a long time, in the face of the league. Honestly, two players that are going to be the face of franchises and face of the league as well. So,
Yep.
what do you how do you see this series going? And obviously with these two superstars and not only the young teams, I mean, how do you see this series going?
Yeah, I mean, I see it as being to your point, a fight that goes 7 games. If I had to pick a way that I leaned right now, I would say probably the Thunder in 7, just because they are the reigning champs until someone knocks them off. That's my sort of default approach to it. Go with who's on top until proven otherwise. But I think the Spurs are definitely a team that can, uh, you know, give them a lot of trouble. Wimby is definitely he's a force of nature. Like there isn't any getting over him, right? Like you don't game plan to take him out of the game, right? You just try to game plan to endure him, right? Like to try and stop the bleeding as much as you can. So yeah, I think it's gonna be probably better than the finals matchup, honestly. No disrespect to the Cavaliers because obviously they took care of business against us. But if right now, as we're looking at the two finals, I got to imagine it's going to be like the Knicks, and then because I already said I was going with the Thunder, I assume it's going to be the Knicks and the Thunder, and I got to imagine for the Thunder, it's going to be a lot easier to take care of the Knicks than it is going to be to take care of the Spurs.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, honestly, I've been doing this for a month now with all the NBA stuff, and I think all the series have really been good. I mean, I was excited
Mhm.
on how this playoff went. Obviously, besides the fact of the Pistons losing, but yeah, I mean, this NBA playoffs was really good, and yeah, can't really wait to see who wins the NBA Finals. So,
Yeah.
but let's talk about since we're talking about things going totally wrong, let's kind of transition to our Detroit Tigers.
So
I haven't been watching them only because they've been doing horrendous, and obviously with the NBA playoffs. But what is going on with these Detroit Tigers? I mean, we lost Verlander, we lost Skubal, we lost Valdez. Like, what what are we doing? We brought in pitching, and it seems like ever since we brought him in, everybody's been disappearing. So,
yeah.
what have you been seeing? What's your kind of opinion on them? And I've been hearing that it was World Series or bust here coming into the season, and I can definitely put all my money in on the bust side of things.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be where we're heading. I think, Scott Harris and co did try to like make some moves to try and go after this championship. Coming in, I think our rotation was kind of rated as being like the second best, behind the Dodgers, and it just hasn't lived up to that. I think Framber Valdez in particular, obviously he had the suspension for beaming that guy from the Red Sox, but just even like he's had a couple of good starts where he's looked like the pitcher that we were investing in, but then he's also had a lot of really terrible starts. And I know he's pitching on the mound today. We have it on in the other room. When I came in here, I think it was 4-1, so he was it looked like he was heading out of the game at that point. So he just hasn't really lived up to that hype. He was supposed to be the 1B to Tarek Skubal's 1A, and that has not translated. And then of course Tarek Skubal had the elbow injury, so he's been out. Casey Mize has been on the IL. You talked about Verlander on the IL. So there's been a lot of injuries. There's also been a lot of injuries outside of the rotation. Uh, you know, lots of guys banged up. Kerry Carpenter, Parker Meadows, Glaber Torres, Javi Baez. Like there's just so many injuries, and it just the offense hasn't been good, even with even if we had those guys and they weren't injured, the offense just really hasn't been producing outside of Riley Green and Kevin McGonigal. Also, shout out, I guess, to Colt Keith and Dylan Dingler, because they've both been playing well as well offensively. But you got those four guys. Everybody else offensively has not been doing well. I have a joke going with my dad where I complain about Spencer Torkelson, saying that he's awful. And for a while, he was checking in with me every day, and that's when he kind of went on that stretch hitting home runs after not hitting any for the first month and a half of the season. And since he stopped asking, he's gone cold again. So I need to get him to keep asking me about him. But yeah, it's there's lots of struggles on this Tigers team. And I think what's going to be really interesting is going to be to see if they are buyers or sellers at after the All-Star break.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, even with this Tarek Skubal thing going on, I've been on a couple podcasts talking about it. Like, I secretly think that he knew that this was an issue prior to all the contract stuff. Whether he knew how severe it was or not. But then I just saw recently that he said that, surgery went well and he's kind of progressing better than he thought he was going to. So
yeah, I saw that as well. Yeah.
It's 50-50 with me. I don't know. I don't think, as like with Duran, I don't think we should pay Skubal. I think we should either trade him or let him walk at the end of the season. Just because not only like injury side of things, but like from an attitude side of things, like he doesn't seem like he's a team player. Obviously, with all the examples of the WBC, him pulling himself out of there, the playoffs last year, him pulling himself out. Like, dude, you want all this money, but you can't pitch more than 5 innings. So it's kind of got to go hand in hand here. So, and it, with other pitching like Verlander, that was supposed to be super cool. He was coming back, playing one more year for his hometown. I don't even think the guy's pitched yet, has he? Because he pitched
He pitched one game. Yeah, he pitched one game. They were away. He was supposed to. Then it was like our second game at home. It was like a Sunday. He was supposed to pitch, and that's when he went out on IL with the hip inflammation. So we've only got to see one start out of him, and he was not good in that one start. So
no. So it's kind of like you guys brought in all this pitching, and it hasn't really done anything. So yeah, I'm hoping that they can, as when I was looking at this, we were 7 games under 500. I don't know. I mean, do you think that, and I know you kind of said it before, but like we got to do a lot of changing going into All-Star break, trade deadline. We got to figure it out. I know it's early to play 162 games, but if you start falling apart now and you can't figure it out, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I think, if they are buried by the time it's the All-Star break, then I think before you get to the trade deadline, maybe you do look to make some things happen. If Tarek Skubal is able to get back early, my opinion on Skubal is I would love to have him like here as a Tiger for life. I think obviously he's a great pitcher. He's won 2 Cy Youngs back to back. Like, he is one of the best pitchers in the game. So I would definitely love for him to stay a Tiger. To your point, I don't know, ultimately he says he wants to be here, but we haven't seen that commitment. I don't know where the breakdown in that is, if that's on Skubal's side, if that's on the Tiger side. They need to get it figured out. But if they're not going to get it figured out, which it kind of feels like they're not, I would definitely prefer that they try and get value back for him instead of him just walking in the offseason and them getting a pick as compensation. So, in that regards, do I hope that he can get back maybe sooner, maybe show that the surgery was a success and help kind of build that draft value back up that's kind of been hurt by him being injured? Yeah, that would be kind of good, especially if we are underwater, because then, maybe one of these teams that are a contender would be more willing to sort of, give up more resources to acquire him at that point in time, which would be good for the team as a whole, especially if they are in a point where they are just looking bad, especially because the Central is not a strong division, right? Like if they can't be in a good position inside of the Central division, I definitely think getting the biggest return they can for Skubal is probably their best thing in both the short and long term, because otherwise it just seems like he's going to walk, and to have him walk and not get anything in return of any substance is not optimal, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, he's too much of an asset to just let walk without getting anything in return. I mean, even if it's some young players back, to kind of figure out our farm system and everything. But yeah, we need to get they got to get on the same page, whether it's he's going to stay here in Detroit or he's going to go play somewhere else. But I don't know. I mean, the problem is I think money talks with him, and I feel like their relationship already is rocky. So I feel like if we don't make playoffs and don't kind of show improvement, that'll just make his decision a lot easier as
Mhm.
far as leaving or staying. But yeah, I mean, it seems like we've talked about the Pistons and now the Tigers. Like it seems like just a couple years ago, like all these teams were playoffs. Detroit's changed. Like maybe somebody's going to bring a championship home. And now the last two teams that we've talked about, Detroit probably won't even make playoffs. The Tigers, Pistons get bounced in the first round. Detroit obviously missed playoffs last year. The Red Wings don't even know what the playoffs are. So, like, what is happening to Detroit sports? Like, was that just a kind of a tease there for the last 2-3 years of like, hey, this is what you guys could potentially see, but it's actually never going to happen?
It is it's depressing because right, we are only one of 12 US cities that have all four major sports teams. We're the only one since 2017 that has all four teams playing in the same downtown district. So like Detroit is a great sports town, and we're just not seeing that translate into championships. We it's funny. The Red Wings are someone who have not seen the playoffs in so long, but they actually won us our most recent championship at the professional level. So that was back in 2008, long time ago. And it's just, yeah, I think the city is definitely hungry for it. I think, us as sports fans, we've definitely, I think it might be a little bit easier on people like you, Cody, where at least you're a Michigan fan, so you've had some national championships to sort of sustain you through this drought at the professional level. But me as a Spartan, it isn't good times. It's not good times, and I think it's frustrating because there are windows, and it seems like there's an opportunity there, but we just haven't seen a team be able to get over the hump and get it done. And I think it's some of it is like things that are in the team's controls. But then obviously, things like injuries, there's a lot of luck and things at play as well. So it's finding that right combination of just being, having the right team and the right coaches in place, and then having the right luck and the right schedule. And we're so close, but the stars don't seem to want to align for us, and it is definitely painful as sports fans.
Yeah, for sure. It was funny, like when I was trying to figure out what outfit, what sports team I wanted to wear. I'm like, you know what? They all are terrible right now. I'm just gonna not wear anything as far as sports for Detroit. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to see. Like, yeah, like you said, we haven't had a championship here since 2008. So it's like at some point, like you and me being such big sports fans, like just one championship in our lifetime. I know, like our parents talk about it, our grandparents, like they've seen it obviously, but like I just want to see one. I don't even care what Detroit team it is. I just want to see one championship. I just want to like experience like a parade in Detroit, a championship in Detroit, and like obviously I was alive for some of those other ones, but like I want to be able to be old enough to be like, oh, I was there. I remember where I was watching it and blah 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 and all this other stuff. So hopefully, we'll get there one day. Hopefully, the Detroit Lions, kind of moving on to them, will be maybe one of those teams to get there. I know you're a big Lions fan. Um, we haven't talked since before the draft. I kind of want to get your opinion on the draft, what you kind of rated them as. Did they draft what they needed, or was it more of what they want on the team rather than what the team actually needs?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think they did a good job of focusing overwhelmingly on sort of needs over wants. I do think like they drafted a lot of the right positions. I think they did a good job of drafting guys that were ranked well for where they were drafting. I just, there wasn't anything that was overly exciting in terms of who they picked. Like Blake Miller, their first round pick, I think that he could definitely go on to be a very serviceable offensive lineman uh in the NFL. But was I like super jazzed about the pick? No, I think the most exciting thing about the Blake Miller pick to me is the fact that it means that Penei Sewell should be moving over to the left side of the line. I think that's the more so exciting part of the Miller pick. And he'll definitely step in and be able to be a serviceable right tackle there. I like the Derek Moore pick. I like the fact that they got some edge help for Hutch, and that should help with the pass rush. I think the guy to really keep an eye on is going to be, at least according to what all the sports analysts, all the football guys out there are saying, that Keith Aveney out of Arizona State, the cornerback they took in the second round, or sorry, not the second round, the fifth round, is supposed to be a pretty big steal for where they got him. So that could be a spot where they, secondary has definitely been, especially the corner position, has been a spot where the last couple of seasons the Lions have been decimated. So if we can have some good luck and actually get a guy in the later rounds who's going to come in and contribute, that'll be a strong win for Brad Holmes. But I think probably the most surprising thing for me that they didn't address in the draft was the safety position, and I'm not sure if that means that that's a good sign for how Branch and Kirby Joseph are progressing, like in their recoveries. That might be a vote of confidence towards them. But I think, again, really liked I shouldn't say I really liked. I liked what they did in the draft. I think they focused on the positions they should. I think they got solid players. I think they have a fairly safe floor with the guys they took. I'm just not sure what the ceiling looks like for a lot of these players. And that, unfortunately, is only going to be something that we'll see as they sort of get a chance to get out there and play the games on Sunday, what they actually can, how high they'll be able to climb with these guys getting dropped into the roster.
Yeah, from what I've been hearing and everything, like, I mean, it's kind of what you said, that they drafted who they needed and everything. They kind of fit the pieces. Yeah, I mean, that Kirby Joseph thing, that's a weird story that's going on. I mean, sometimes I hear that he's done. It's a knee injury that's not really fixable. But who knows? I mean, when you got the dedication and the drive to do it, I mean, it's possible that he comes back even if he plays limited or whatever. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, like you said, the cornerback situation, I feel like, has been an ongoing issue for us.
It's been a revolving door, yeah.
Yes, and like you said before, like with injuries, I mean, I know you can't predict injuries and everything, but it seems like every year that the Lions get hit with this injury bug. So hopefully, they can condition right. They can hopefully everything falls in place for Detroit. So,
yep.
I saw the schedule came out. How are you feeling about it? Are we looking like a playoff team this year? Or is it going to be another, missed playoffs? Obviously, that NFC North is only getting harder as these years are going on. So yeah, where do you kind of rank us in the division? And, do you see us making playoffs, or is this schedule still going to be a little difficult?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about coming in last place in the division last year means that we do get a favorable schedule. So I think we have right now the sixth best schedule in terms of like the average win rate for our opponents last year. And that is factoring in the NFC North, which was includes the Packers and the Bears. Minnesota, I'm still not exactly sure what they have going on. Obviously, they brought in Kyler Murray. They still have J.J. McCarthy. If they get that quarterback thing figured out, it may be able to help them out. But definitely, I think the two to be worried about are the Packers and the Bears. And of course, as part of that schedule release, we found out that we will be playing the Bears on Thanksgiving. So that should be a pretty, it'd be nice to be able to celebrate a Lions win on Thanksgiving. And hopefully we can, so far we're 2-0 against Ben Johnson and the Bears. So hopefully, we can continue the winning streak, but definitely, that's one where that's going to be tough, taking care of the Bears on Thanksgiving, but hopefully they can get it done. But in general, I think like the over under for like DraftKings has us at like 10.5 wins for the season, which should, put us in contention for a wild card spot, which I think the Lions can very much do. When you look at like the Packers, they had they spent all that draft capital bringing in Micah Parsons, and then he got hurt. So he's coming off of that injury. So again, injuries can derail teams. So whether it's the Bears or the Packers, it's going to come down to how healthy they stay and how healthy the Lions stay, whether or not we actually have a chance to maybe go for the the NFC North title. But I definitely think they can be inside of that wild card race. the nice thing is a lot of our opponents did poorly last season, but just because we're trying to be that team, right, that goes from last to first. So who knows how many of those other opponents we have are going to be also in positions where they could go from worst to first. It's going to be interesting to see how some of those other teams do because we're playing the Titans, we're playing the Giants, we're playing the Jets. In theory, those should be games we can win, but it's going to be interesting to see how much those teams improved as well this offseason.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, obviously the Jets are always going to be a bad team. I feel like. I mean, I feel terrible
It
for
seems
Aaron
like it,
Glenn,
yeah.
but yeah, but I mean, looking at the schedule, like I think the game that I'm kind of looking forward to actually is the one that they're playing over in Germany against New England. I think that'll be kind of cool. I feel like we never have like a. I don't think we've had an international game yet.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but definitely it's very cool that we get that we're going to Germany, especially with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and his family history being able to play there. It's pretty cool that they got chosen for that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like looking at the rest of this, obviously, the NFC North is going to be tough. We have the Giants on schedule, who I think are going to be. They're probably up there for potential Super Bowl, you know, contenders. Obviously, with all the changes they've made and all the additions and everything. But yeah, I mean, it looks like on paper it's an easy schedule, but like you said, I mean, some of these other teams can be kind of, behind the scenes changing the stuff around. I mean,
Yeah.
just looking at Arizona here, I mean, they drafted Jeremiah Love. I mean, that's going to be a tough team. Obviously, I don't think they have a quarterback. I think it's Jacoby Brissett as of right now. I think
Jacoby Brissett and what's his name? He played for a lot of teams. Who did he just play for? He's the quarterback from was it Miami he was just at?
Oh, Tua?
Not Tua.
I don't even know where Tua went, actually, now that you're saying it.
It was. Oh, sorry, it was their third round pick, Carson Beck.
Okay. Oh,
So,
yeah. So I mean, that's a team right there to be worried about. So yeah, I mean, like you said though, these on paper it looks like an easy schedule, but you got to see what happens on the field, whether these guys can do it, stay healthy. Um, I mean, starting off the season, they have Buffalo, so that's really going to be our big test right there. So, and I believe that's in the new stadium, correct?
yes, yeah, I believe so.
So a lot of pressure on Detroit to win that game. Obviously, a lot of pressure on them to win as many games as possible because us missing the playoffs is obviously not anything that the Detroit fans were thinking was going to happen. So hopefully they can change it, turn it around. I feel like football feel like it's been like forever since they actually played. I don't know if it's just because I've been paying attention to, the playoffs, for basketball and everything like that, but yeah, I'm excited. I think this Lions team should be doing pretty good. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Dan Campbell might be on the hot seat after this year. What's your kind of opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it'll all come down to how sort of the season plays out. We have started to hear some rumblings of maybe some disconnect between him and Brad Holmes, and maybe they're not on the same page with all of the personnel decisions and things like that. So, if this is another season where they do miss the playoffs, I do think either Dan Campbell or Brad Holmes will probably be on the hot seat. I'm not sure who they'll kind of lean towards at that point in time. That'll definitely be up to Sheila Ford and the ownership there. But it will be interesting to see because it seems like if there is gonna, I don't think it'll be a clean sweep if they do decide to move on. I think one of them will likely stay on, and they will look to kind of pick sides in that divorce. So we'll see. But hopefully that isn't something we have to talk about in the future, and we'll be more instead talking about a playoff run for the Lions. I think the big thing will be is if this offensive line, this new unit they've assembled, can they be as good as the offensive line had been in previous seasons? Because that was really, the heart and soul of the team. Like it's what allowed them to go out there and be aggressive on fourth downs because they knew that they could get those, they had the line to move the defense off the ball and get those first downs. And that was something that was definitely missing last year, between the injuries to Decker, Ragnow being gone, there was the guards, the interior of the line. There was just so much going on there that they, without that was like their superpower. And they didn't have that last year. So hopefully, with all of the moves they've made this offseason, they come back renewed and can get back to that. Otherwise, I think it is going to be on Dan Campbell to recognize that, hey, your offensive line isn't as good as it was, and you need to adapt. And that's coming from a Spartan fan, because I know with Mark D'Antonio, he was always like, his thing was, we're just going to run. Our offensive line is going to take over the game. We're going to win in the trenches, and we're going to run the ball, which worked great most of the time until we ran into a team whose defensive line was meaner than our offensive line, and then it became a problem. But he wouldn't pivot; like, he would just keep just stubborn, and hopefully, Dan Campbell and the Lions, if for whatever reason this offensive line isn't fixed, they're not too stubborn to try and find a winning recipe, because last season's it wasn't there. So disappointing.
No, and you got to protect Goff. I mean, he's only getting older. And with him, like, I feel like if he gets any pressure, he just throws the ball in the grass. Obviously he's not a mobile quarterback. So I think us building up that offensive line to keep that pocket from collapsing on him so quick will give him time to throw to the weapons that he has out on the field. You talked about the running game, like us bringing in Isaiah Pacheco. I think he's going to be, I saw a video of him at practice the other day. I mean, that guy is built. I mean, if we put him on, 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 3s, I have a feeling he's just going to smash through that defense and get us that first down. So I'm excited to see that, because, Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously he's got the speed and everything like that, but I still don't think he's built up enough to be able to just kind of put his body on the line really and just push through that defensive line.
Yeah. And, I think, I don't know if we necessarily want him to either, right? Like, we're getting close to potentially having to figure out his next contract. So, we want to keep as much tread on those tires as we can.
Yes.
He's been doing great for us, and I would definitely love to see him continue as a Lion, but want to try and keep him as healthy as possible so we can continue to enjoy the success he's brought to us.
Yes, for sure. So hopefully a lot of, positive things going in the future of the Detroit sports. Any last little thoughts, comments on any of the Detroit teams? Like I said, I know that I was hoping to have some sort of good talk with this podcast. Obviously, it's great talking sports with you. Was kind of hoping that we would have a good talk about the Detroit Pistons, but I guess, like they say, there's always next year, right?
There is always next year, and that seems to be the motto for Detroit teams. But there's something about it. Just like when I started doing the Lions Grid, I was actually a Green Bay Packers fan. So I've converted from a Packers fan to a Lions fan as the process of doing the Lions Grid, and part of that is just because of sort of Lions fans and like the stuff we go through, right? Like the Lions have definitely, as an organization, they've had some really ups and downs. Even Matt Stafford, when he was here, they had the 0-16 season, but like there's just so many things with the Lions. It's a whole thing. And then when you go beyond just the scope of the NFL and you look at Detroit as a whole, like I said, the last championship we had in one of the big four sports was the Red Wings back in 2008. So it's been over 17 years since we've won a championship, which, I mean, it's almost to the point this drought where it's old enough to vote. So it makes it difficult, I think, to get super excited about it. It is encouraging that it seems like we're in a window where so many of the teams do have an opportunity, but it does make it disappointing that none of those teams have yet found the winning formula to take advantage of that opportunity. Like, it's there, we just can't seem to get it figured out. And there can only be one champion each year. So there's, especially with the NFL, that means there's 31 other teams that also couldn't figure it out. But, it doesn't necessarily take the pain away, acknowledging those facts. It can help you deal with it, but it would be nice to at least see the Lions make a Super Bowl. They don't even have a Super Bowl appearance. So just getting to the game would, obviously if they get there, I want them to win, but like just getting there would be something. So, as we kind of circle back to the Pistons, yeah, it was good that they got to the playoffs. They got a series win, although I think we both agreed that if Wagner played, they might not have got that series win. But at least they did get some good experience for Cade. It was good to see them, make it as far as they did. Disappointing how it ended, particularly like we said that they got ran out of the gym a little bit by the Cavaliers last night. But it's hopefully they take it the right way. They use it as a building block for the future. And to your point, there's always next season, and they come back and get after it again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just one other thing I want to end it with is like, even with that Pistons game, like if we would, I would have rather lost on a buzzer beater than to
Yeah.
just, like you said, get blown out in the gym by 30 plus points. So kind of just wanted to throw that in there. But Kevin, I appreciate you coming on. We had you on a couple weeks ago, like I said. Having you on this live show was awesome. I love talking sports with you. We'll definitely be having you on again soon. But kind of plug your stuff where people can find you at. And again, I appreciate you coming on as always.
Yeah, appreciate it, Cody. So you can find the Lions Grid on pretty much all of your usual channels. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all the usual places. I think you can also find our most recent season is on Spotify as well as a podcast. So if you want to stream, I think that was, of course, that was back in 2024. So it's not as relevant of a season. But you never know. Me and my co-host Jeffrey may be making a return to form this season. We'll see. I have to talk that over with him. And then, of course, it could be cool too as well to potentially have all three of us here on catching up with Cody at some point in time during the season and talk a little Lions football with you. And hopefully, we're talking about the success of the Lions at that point, and not lamenting too about missed opportunities.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Well, again, thank you guys for tuning in to the live episode of Catching Up with Cody. We will be here again next Monday at 9 p.m., so please tune into that. Thank you guys for watching. Please give me a follow, like, subscribe. Also, look for the Lions Grid. Give them a follow, like, and subscribe as well. And thank you guys for catching up with Cody. Peace.